WFH with two guys. Now here's Benny and Dennis.
Hey, Dennis, I'm going to tell you a story for this intro, if this is okay with you.
That'd be great. Tell me a story. I love stories.
Okay. So some of you all in the listening audience will probably have heard some variation of this, but this is one that kind of has hit home and stayed with me for years. There was a nuclear power facility that, very expensive. Obviously, the town relied upon it for power, and it and it was having some problems. There was this nagging problem that they couldn't figure out. They had literally dozens of engineers and really brilliant minds that worked at this power plant, but they couldn't figure out what was going on. And so they spent literally months trying to figure out the problem and could not isolate it, and it was causing problems. So they decided that it was time to bring in an expert. So when they brought in an expert, after denying that they couldn't figure out this problem themselves, they had these Harvard graduates and MIT scientists, and they couldn't figure it out. And this guy comes in, they tell him the problem, he looks at it, points to a button and puts a big red X on there and says, "That's your problem. That needs to be replaced." Sure enough, they take it, they replace it, boom, done. Cheap little part, and they're eternally grateful. They couldn't figure this out. Well, a couple of weeks later, it comes in, they get an invoice, and the invoice was for $10,000. And the managing director of the power plant is flabbergasted. He's absolutely appalled. And he said, "Listen, I see that you have this invoice here. Can you do me a favor? And I need to have this itemized." He was literally in there for 5 minutes, and he charged $10,000. Comes back, no problem. Sends him an invoice again. Says, replacing part of failed system board, $3. Knowing what part is wrong and how to fix it, $9,997. And that's really the point of really what our today's guest at our podcast is knowing your value. Isn't that right?
It is. And we've got John Ray joining us today to talk about pricing. And I think most of us that own a business struggle with what is the right price. Is it too high? Is it too low? And John shares some red flags that you ought to be thinking about. And then we talk in the conversation just about different ways to think about pricing and how you could grow your business and be more effective with the right pricing approach. And for Benny and I, it's a great conversation. It opened our eyes. My whole wheels were in my brain were spinning the whole time.
Yeah, I took tons of notes. And in terms of the value that I got, this is why I love this podcast. We meet so many really interesting people, and occasionally there's a topic that hits home. And maybe it's timing for me, but John Ray is the author of The Generosity Mindset. And this is an amazing book. I can't wait to dig in deeper on this one. But take a listen to this podcast. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this one. This is a topic that is one of the things that I remember when I started putting my business plan together, Dennis, was that I really didn't know where to start when it came to actually delivering my products to my clients. I had this great idea. I knew the skill set that I was bringing to the table, but infamously, the question that I would get asked on some of the projects that I'd be working on would be, "Well, what? That sounds great. What does it cost?" And I remember distinctly not really being able to put much thought into that. And I think I fumbled and stumbled over my words and said, "Oh, okay, well, let me put a proposal together for you." And so that particular moment was eye-opening for me. I don't know if you've ever encountered that.
Oh yeah. And my background was heading up purchasing groups. So I was always on the other side trying to get people to lower their prices that we were going to buy. And so in many cases, I'm my worst enemy because I'm already negotiating in my head of why we need to lower the price instead of coming in at a higher price. And I think every business owner and entrepreneur struggles with what is the right price. You don't want to be too high, but you don't want to be too low. You definitely don't want to give it away. And there's many people that do give things away. And so today we've got an expert joining us. John Ray is with us. John, welcome.
Welcome, John.
Yeah, Dennis, Benny, it's great to be with you. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Yeah, you bet. And I have to say that this particular topic really made me perk up in my seat when I thought about this. This is an important thing. Let's be very honest with ourselves. One of the primary reasons we go into business, we own small businesses, is that we want to be able to make money, make a living, provide for our family. At the same time, too, there are things such as, the term imposter syndrome might be familiar to some of the folks out there in the audience, or people who feel that, hey, my value is limitless. So I can't charge enough, and I need to be charging 20 times more than my local competitor just because of who I am. So somewhere in the middle, and somewhere being able to take a look at the value of what we bring to our clients is probably the answer. And John, we need you to talk to us about that.
I'm delighted to do that. Thank you. And I look, hey, I come at it with a whole chest of drawers full of T-shirts myself. So all the issues that others have had, I've had, and that's what made me passionate about it, Benny, Dennis, because we all get into business and we know a lot about marketing and how we do what we do and operations and all this kind of thing, but we don't know a lot about pricing. And so that's what really got me passionate about it, because I saw this in my clients and in myself.
Mm-hmm. So, John, kind of, I know you've written a book, and in the book you talk about, 7 flags of pricing. Kind of just give the listeners, what are some of the triggers or things that are warning signs that you're probably pricing your thing too low, be it a good or a service?
Well, a few that really jump out: if you're pricing by time, you're pricing by the hour, your price is inadequate. Why? It's because hourly pricing or your time is an input. It has nothing to do with the value that you provide in the service that you deliver. If you are working too hard for too little money, if you feel that way, you've got a pricing problem.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to people that are hourly workers, that if you feel like you're putting in tons of hours and you're not making much on the back end, that means you've priced yourself too low, and that maybe there's something else out there, or you need to distinguish yourself to move that price point up. And that's a challenge. Right. That's a challenge.
If you're charging the same price to all clients, you're not pricing adequately.
Ooh. So explain that one. Let's go there. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, that one is really comes from the idea that different clients have different values for a given product or service. So some clients are perfectly happy with your basic offering, and that's all they want. They don't want the premium velvet rope option that you have. But what a lot of times as service providers we do is we give away everything to all clients. So, for example, I'm a cheapskate when it comes to coffee. I mean, I'm perfectly happy to wait until I can get to Benny's office. He can buy me a cup of coffee, right?
There you go.
As opposed to my daughter, who is banging at Starbucks, 2 or 3 times a day, probably, right? Paying $8 for a cup of coffee. The point is if you're giving me Starbucks coffee, you're giving me more value than I really care to get. And we do that a lot within our businesses. And so the solution to that is to create options, and the magic number, good, better, best, that's 3. The magic number is 3. Create good, better, best options for clients. And we see this out there in the world all the time.
So that would be in the automobile world. If I want a Fiat, if I need an automobile, and it depends on, I could get a Fiat, I could get a GM, or I could get a Mercedes. They all 3 get me from point A to point B. It depends on how much I have in my pocket and what the value is, and what are the, do I want the heated steering wheel and the ability to have the car drive itself, versus I just want to get in a car and get from point A to point B.
Yeah, exactly. And as service providers, we've got all sorts of different ways that we deliver our services in all sorts of different ways that people want to accept those services. So some people are perfectly happy with the chatbot. Some people want 24-hour a day personal access. Why would you charge the same thing for those two things?
So John, let's talk about the hourly one, because that's one, in my world, a lot of times we're doing it. Oh, it's going to take us 40 hours. So it's this hourly rate. It sounds, in your view, and I like your view, is that we should really come back and say, hey, here's 3 different options. Option A, which we know is the nuts and bolts. We're going to get it built, but you're not getting anything fancy. Here's option B. We're going to build this, but we're going to give you, extra support. And option C is it's the gold glove. We're there bending over backwards, doing backflips and tumbling down this football field for you.
Yeah, exactly. And you're really doing what's out there. You noted it. You're following on what's out there in the world right now. I mean, that people like options, number one. Buyers like options. Mm-hmm. And so if you're able to give them options that better fit the value that they see in what you offer, if you just do that and don't even really change a lot with your pricing, if you just introduce options, you will improve your overall revenue.
Interesting. That's a great. I mean, I'm just the wheels in my head are spinning. Like, okay, move out of that mindset of saying, here's how many hours it's going to take. I need to know that on my side from a cost perspective, but I don't need to share that with the client. I need to say, hey, here's option A, B, or C. A gets it built. B is we're going to get it built, and we know you're going to need some extra hand holding. And C, you're not going to be involved at all, and we're going to do the whole thing, and you just come in and move in when you're ready.
John, I just want to comment to you. This is brilliant, because I think in terms of like the services or in products, it's easy to be able to think about like if you will, a bronze, silver, and gold type package that would be available for clients, because you can we'll add these feature sets on, or you just won't have this, or you're limited in the amount of time you can use the particular service. That's great. What really kind of it made me think a little bit about this is the individual out there who is doing consulting services. And this is near and dear to my heart for you guys listening out there, because this is part of the model that we're going to be bringing forth in 2025. So the clients have asked for some of this stuff. And the idea would be, well, you're just going to get me as a service provider, and we're going to do some consulting for you. And really that's one, whether it be like, now you're making me think about this, an hourly rate or a package price. But now I'm thinking, wow, there are different options out there. And if I turn the tables and I think about this, now you've given the purchaser the ability to think, okay, listen, maybe I can't or don't need that gold package, but that silver, the bronze level, that seems pretty intriguing for me, and that fits our budget. So that way you're not completely, it's not an on or off thing. It is, yeah, okay, I could see that. We just need you for 10 hours a week. I don't need you really for the 15 plus, thanks for the extra stuff too as well. This is really, it's home for me.
Well, great. I'm delighted to hear that for certain, Benny and Dennis. I want to get to this business about hourly pricing, because here's the thing. If I quote an hourly rate, that's not a final invoice. Because even if you think it's going to take 40 hours, I like to use Dennis's example, some of those projects take 30. Some of them take 50. And on the one that takes 30, why are you going to penalize yourself for doing it faster than you thought you would? Why would you do that? I mean, that's the problem with hourly pricing. You're on the wrong side of the table from the client. And it's really, at the end of the day, it's a conflict of interest. Now, the truth of the matter is we've accepted this as a acceptable way of pricing, and clients accept it. But the truth of the matter is it's only because it's convention. It's not because it has anything to do with value provided. And what we need to get to as service providers is pricing to receive a sliver of the value that we provide. And that value we provide for every client I've ever worked with is always more when you start pricing to value than it is pricing by the hour.
So, John, let's say, because I mean, again, the seller side, they've got to calculate, hey, it's going to take 30 hours, or we think it's going to take 30 hours, and so then they do the bronze, silver, and gold mentality. What do you do when they picked the silver, so they're expect a little bit more than just the basics, but instead of 30 hours, it does turn into 70 hours. I mean, it took a lot more. Mm-hmm. Do you need to have like a really good scope that identifies that silver level, and then when it starts going over the scope, do you have to tell the client, hey, this was we expected this to be in the 50-hour range, and now you're pushing us beyond that. There's an additional cost, or what do you do in that situation where you're building something, or you're building a house and things change or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first thing you do is you're not pricing it based on or scoping it out, I should say, based on a good, better, best model being, 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, right? So that's the first thing. What you're doing is scoping it out based on outcomes. This is what we're going to deliver, and this is how we will deliver it. This is the speed at which we will deliver it, that kind of thing, right? So that's how you differentiate that. So, it's small, medium, large. It's working by email, working through a regular weekly call, unlimited calls, that kind of thing. So you've got different service options along the way. Then when you have those situations, though, and you will, because clients, I know this is like a shocking thing, but clients lie sometimes. It's amazing. It's amazing how that works. I don't know if that happens with you guys, but it's happened to me.
Unfortunately, they may not lie. They just don't tell you all the information, or they don't even have all the information because Beth and Susie are holding information back from the owner and doesn't tell them all the steps until you get into it.
Yeah, well, exactly. And the truth of the matter is sometimes they don't even know what you can do. Right. They don't know all the capabilities you have. So you get into a project and a client says, hey, I like what you're doing there. Can you do, you've done well with A, can you do B? And kind of extend this out a little bit. Then you have a conversation. Yeah, we can do that. But here's what we need to talk about in terms of the value that you get from that, and then how we change the pricing.
And this is really intriguing for me. I've been taking a lot of notes here.
My wheels are spinning because this is one where in my business we've migrated to that hourly approach, and I see kind of where you're coming from, that it's like there's a better way. You still got to know your cost. I mean, that you got to know kind of, if you're selling a product. The challenge is if you're selling yourself, then it's really how much profit you want to make or how much revenue you want for yourself. But if you're involved in other people, you got to know kind of what that costs. So you got to cover it, but then you definitely can. I like the three, and because again, coming from the purchasing side, I always liked options. I hated it when someone told me, "Here's the proposal." It's like, because you're right, human nature, we want to feel like we're in control and have choices, and so you can guide them to the choice you want them to pick by either making the price right along with the services or goods that you're going to deliver.
Yeah.
But then it lets them make that choice versus you making the choice for them. And you may err on the side of lower than what they thought. I mean, I've had several that said, oh, we were going to spend, 3X and we only quoted it 2X. Well, shoot, I could have had another X potentially in there if I'd have had an option that pulled it together. And identify, and you've got to scope it out or identify what you're going to get for level A, B, or C. Just like when you're buying a car, you know that if I'm buying this version, I get this. If I'm buying this version, I get the heated steering wheels. And if I buy C, I get the Tesla. So there's all kinds of things.
Well, and here's the other thing. Here's where you have to be careful when you introduce options. So gets back to my red flags of inadequate pricing. Typically about 25% to a third of all buyers for any product or service are cheapskates, just like me with coffee, right? So, so therefore, if you are uh, getting 100% acceptance on your proposals, you're pricing too low because the cheapskates are saying, "Hey, that's great. I'm delighted to sign up uh, because it fits my unwillingness to pay." Um, the other thing is that your premium offer should only be about probably 10-15% of your clients. Here's a great example of why. Look on an airplane. How many first class seats are there? Versus, and I'm not talking about business class, I'm talking about prime first class seats. How many first class seats are there relative to other seats on the plane? It's about
Right.
10% on average, right? And so your price needs to be high enough for that premium offer, and you need to be delivering enough value to justify that price. But your price needs to be high enough such that you don't have 50% of your clients are at that premium offer and you're running yourself ragged.
Mm-hmm. No,
John, this is really intriguing, and there's something that you had mentioned earlier before. This is before we were recording, that I think I really want you to talk about, and kind of plays into this is about mindset. And can you talk a little bit about that? I think that was a really key point for me.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. When we are in the expertise business, what are we selling? We're selling what's between our ears, basically, right? And the problem with that is it's not a, product that has its own existence. It's right between our ears, and therefore it's affected by the mindsets we have about ourselves in a lot of cases. So, like you mentioned, imposter syndrome. The mindset of I want to help everyone. Well, that may not be a great way to run a business. In fact, it's not. You've actually got to be in business to actually help people, by definition. So the point is we have these mindsets in our head that get in the way, and we make it about us, and it's not about us. It's how we serve. We are service providers. We deliver service. And what is it and that's what I mean by the generosity mindset. It's not about giving things away. It's about putting ourselves in the head of clients to understand the value that they see in the service that we provide. And a big part of that is asking the right questions and continuing to ask questions as to where they see value.
This has been a wonderful discussion, and I know that just even in like looking at Dennis and some of the conversations we had. I recently was in Nashville, and we had this long walk and talked about different things. This really hits home with this, and I know there's so much more that we want to talk to you about, and we'll have you back on another podcast. But let's leave us with one thought in terms of, if you could, what you want the listeners to think about here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you will find is if you will take the time and effort to get in the head of your clients and understand where they see value, what you will find is that they see more value in you, how you deliver your service, and the outcomes that you deliver. They see more value than you see yourself. And if you understand that, it changes how you will handle your pricing. They're willing to be willing to pay higher prices than what you think they will. And you'll quit selling out of your own wallet, which is what we often do, and you'll sell to the value that clients perceive. And when you make that change in your business, it's powerful, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to have the option to be able to make more money with fewer clients. That's Disneyland
I love it.
for us service providers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
To have that option.
Fantastic. Well, I'm from Florida originally, so I'd say Disney World, but that's good.
There you go.
So John, there are going to be a lot of people who have some questions, and they want to be able to reach out to you. What's the best way for someone who's listening to be able to get a hold of you and maybe ask you a question or two?
Sure. So my email address is john@johnray.co. That's JOHNRAY.co. That you can go to the generositymindset.com to learn more about the book, find out where to buy the book, which is essentially pretty much any book retailer.
All fine reading establishment.
That's right, where all fine books are sold, as the saying goes. And connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm John Ray 1 on LinkedIn, and I write about these issues on LinkedIn all the time.
Fantastic. John, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really enjoyed this. We're going to have you back because I think there's more that we want to discuss and talk to you about.
Well, I'm honored and grateful. Thank you so much, Benny, Dennis.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, John.
Well, Dennis, that's another podcast in the can. I know that a lot of you all want to know how to get in touch with us. Dennis, what's the best way for folks to be able to get a hold of you?
Yeah, email's by far the best for me. It's Dennis J, so DENNISJ @worksolution.com, and that's WORX solution, no S at the end, so solution.com. Benny, how about you?
Yeah, same thing. Get a hold of me. My email address is benny@velocitytechnology.group. That's BENNY @velocitytechnology.group. Also, for me and Dennis, you can find us on LinkedIn. Look for us on LinkedIn. Our Work From Home with Two Guys is on LinkedIn. And we also have a website, WFH2guys.com. Look us up. You'll find all the past episodes and some little bits of information that maybe we don't get a chance to talk to on the podcast. We put it out there too as well.
And definitely share us with your friends and people in your network.
Absolutely. Let us know what we can do to make this podcast your podcast. Give us some ideas. And if you'd like to be a guest, let us know. We'll talk to you guys soon.
You've been listening to WFH with Two Guys. We'll see you next time.